Hey everybody, Comic Crack here with a quicker video for you tonight. I was at the flea market, Thirsty's flea market close to my place, just looking for stocking stuffers, gifts for Christmas, and my son's birthday is coming up. But of course while I was there, everybody was there, all the vendors were there, and all the comic guys were there, and there was a few comic guys there that I hadn't seen before. And a few of the guys had a lot of new stock as well, so there was some bins to go through and lots of cheap bins, quite a few like $1 and 50-cent bins. There was a couple of bins that were kind of buy three for $1, that sort of thing, so I managed to pick up a little stack of books. So wanted to share that with you, and then just do kind of a little bit of talking about this that I've started reading, The First Kingdom. Just kind of a little intro to the videos that'll be coming up on that kind of first 5 issues by Jack Katz. So if you want to hear a bit about that, just stick around to the end. So the only Marvel proper title that I got was The Defenders, issue number 48. There was a couple in the 50-cent bins, but this was the only one that I needed. Unfortunately, I always hope to find these dirt cheap. Like I think I've said in videos before, for some reason, whenever I find Defenders comics, they're usually priced pretty high, all of them, not like just the first issue, especially the early issues, but I can't always find them for cheap. I've been fairly lucky at a garage sale, or a yard sale rather. I found a whole stack of them a couple of years ago, which is the meat of my collection of Defenders. I found there for dirt cheap. Otherwise they don't pop up that much here. And then from Epic Comics, Moonshadow number 8, that I've talked about before. I've got a few of these issues. Not enough yet to sit and read. I want to get a good chunk of the first ones, maybe 1 to 10 kind of thing, before I dig into these. But yeah, another one I don't come across often for cheap, so it might take me a little bit. The next few are from Eclipse Comics, and this first one is a series that I've never heard of before. It was 26 issues, I think, when I kind of looked briefly online about it. It's called Crossfire, so that's Crossfire number 24, and that's number 25. I always like seeing the full page ads on the back. On this one, a good ad for Winter World, which I think I'm 1 issue away from completing that miniseries. I've read it all digitally, but I'm looking forward to hunting down that last issue. Another one that I've never heard of before either. This is a 2-issue miniseries, and this is number 1. This is Bullet Crow by Chuck Fiala, who I've never heard of, and I don't recognize that either. Just black and white work on the inside. Looks like kind of 1 or 2 page gags, or 1 page gag strips kind of thing, so we'll see what that's like. But because it's Eclipse, that's why I got it. On the funny animal tip, Dr. Monkeybot had a video a little while ago where he was talking about, he picked up a Hamster Vice 3D, which I also have in my collection, and he was talking about Fish Police and stuff, which I used to read. And it just kind of really reminded me, watching him talk about that briefly, really reminded me of this time where I was really into reading all these. Like there was Geriatric Gangrene Jiu-Jitsu Gerbils that I loved. There was Preteen Dirty Jean Kung Fu Kangaroos. There was the Hamster Vice and Fish Police, of course. There was Chameleon Commandos. There was a whole bunch. So since he's been talking about that, it seems like everywhere I go, every bin that I look through, those things just jump out at me. I haven't picked up any yet, but I don't think I actually will. But just, it's one of those things, you hear about something, all of a sudden you start seeing it all over the place. But on the 3D notion, I love the old style 3D comics, and I pick them up whenever I can. I've got a small collection of some really great 3D books, and a ton of the glasses. This is one where the glasses are actually still attached in the book, which is kind of nice. and it was a 2-issue series apparently, and this is number 2 of Spectacular Tour 3D by Joe Kubert. So that was a pretty great find for dirt cheap. So there's the glasses still in there. And even just leafing through it, it looks like it's going to be a phenomenal one. I'm looking forward to breaking out some of the old glasses and having a look through that sucker. There's another spread there for you to check out. Yeah, so that's pretty great. Another for the 3D collection. Only one comic this time from PC Comics, and it was another one that I've never heard of. It's a 2-issue series as well, from what I found out, and it's called Vanity. So this is number 2, and on the ads on the back of the page is Pathways to Fantasy, which I've also never seen. Bruce Jones, did it say? Yeah, Bruce Jones Associates production. Regular bi-monthly fantasy comic featuring an ever-changing lineup of today's top artists and writers. Never seen it around, didn't know that it existed. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. This Vanity number 2 is from August 1984. I'm not sure when they packed it in, but this one looks like it'll be good trashy reading with a buxom half-dressed heroine. So yeah, I'm sure that'll be really deep and meaningful. First Comics, something that just leapt out at me as spectacular. I don't remember how long this series went. I looked in it. I know I don't have the whole thing, but I have a good chunk that I can't wait. I've never seen anything like this, and I'm really excited about it. It's the first computerized comic, and it's called Shatter, and it's from June 1985. Have a look at that sucker. I've never seen this before. I don't know anything about it. Does it say a creator's name in here? Probably on the... Oh, forget about it. Look at this. Just soak that in. That's something special right there. Let's see, is there... No, there's no title page here that I'm seeing. Oh, here we go. Art, Michael Saenz, S-A-E-N-Z. Story by Peter B. Gillis. And that's it. With thanks to Apple Macintosh. So there's a look at a couple more pages. So this is the special number 1. This was the first thing that came out before the miniseries started up. And then I have some of the miniseries. So here's number 1. And number 2. And number 3. And number 4. And number 5. Looks spectacular. What are you gonna do about it? You can't even believe what you're looking at right now. You can't even believe it, and you're so jealous that I have this and you don't. There you go, there's some more right there. Forget about it, you can't have it. No, I'm sorry. I can't wait. That one excites me. That's so ridiculously good looking. I can't even believe it. I've never seen anything like it before. They made it. I just can't believe it. And on the back of the cover there, that Elric 176-page full-color adaptation of the first book in Michael Moorcock's Elric saga by Roy Thomas and P. Craig Russell. On sale now in 1986. I wouldn't mind hunting that sucker down. From Quality Comics, an issue of Rogue Trooper, and this is issue number 13. I've seen this book around before. It's not something that have never come across. I've just never picked any issues up, and for some reason I decided to give this one a shot. And the art really leapt out at me today. I don't know why, if it was the coloring or just the mood I was in, I'm not really sure, but it really appealed to me. So I'm looking forward to this, and like I said, I've seen issues of this around, so I don't think it's going to be too tough to find. Especially, I don't think it's going to be tough to find in the dirt cheap bins too, which is another good thing. There's a look at that too. And then speaking of having things on your mind and all of a sudden that's all that you notice, I've been on a Harry Harrison kick lately, specifically Stainless Steel Rat, and I know that there was a comic out there. I'd never seen it, and all of a sudden today I find 3 of the 6-issue miniseries, the Stainless Steel Rat by Eagle Comics, and they call it Eagle Comics 6-issue Rodent series. So here's number 2, and there's number 3, and there's number 4. These came from 2 different vendors at the flea market, and I dug and I dug and I dug, and I didn't find the missing issues yet. I'll have a look at my good old Red River bookshop, because I just have a sneaking suspicion that this might be something that he'll have tucked away in the depths of his long boxes. So that's pretty exciting. And then there was another Harry Harrison miniseries. This is a 4-issue miniseries from, what's this company? Adventure Comics. Yes, that's what it's called, Adventure Comics. And it's called Death World, issue 1. And number 2. Number 3, and number 4. This one, the art didn't blow me away. I don't dislike it, but just black and white this time. It was more the fact of more Harry Harrison adapted to comics. So why the hell not? May as well give it a shot, especially it being a 4-issue miniseries. And then one I was really surprised to find. I'm only missing a couple of these, but I don't often come across them. From Ripoff Press, The Adventures of Fat Freddy's Cat, book number 4, with a good shot of Fat Freddy and his cat on the back there. I have a couple of these kind of comic-sized issues in my collection already, and then I've got some smaller ones. They're as thick as a comic strip, but they're kind of digest-sized, and I have a feeling, especially this first story, which is called The Burning of Hollywood, I have a feeling that this might also be one that I have in one of those smaller sizes, but it doesn't matter too much. It's Fat Freddy's Cat, so I'm kind of looking forward to revisiting some Freak Brothers from my youth, so that's kind of cool to find that. And then finally, I pick these up whenever I see them. I have a good chunk of the series, but I'm still missing a few of them. Star Reach number 9. I just read this today, actually, or most of it today. Pretty good. I kind of liked the first story quite a bit, surprisingly, because the art didn't appeal to me. But here's just kind of a sample of a couple of the stories. And another mini series or mini story. And then the first one that I kind of enjoyed reading, it's the first part, this Sacred and the Profane. It was pretty good. Then the other interesting thing about it was that I'd like to focus special attention on our cover feature, The Sacred and the Profane by Ken Stacy and Dean Motter. Dean is a part-time instructor at the Ontario College of Art in Toronto, and Ken in one of his more daring students, is one of his more daring students. This story is a real first for Star Reach in that it's actually the first chapter in a 75-page graphic novelette, which will be serialized over 5 issues, then most likely collected into book form. I'm very excited about beginning such a project, as there appears to me to be a largely untapped potential for graphic stories of extended length, and I'm increasingly eager to explore this new territory. Byron Preece in his fiction illustrated books and Jack Katz's The First Kingdom are the current forerunners here, though there are innumerable roots in comics and general culture. So this is dated 1977, and I think the first issue of Star Reach was 1974. I think it was 74. So it's interesting to hear that, especially because he cites somebody else, fiction illustrated books, which I've also never heard about, so I'll have to do some digging online for that. But I mean, again, just everything just kind of comes full circle in my little world of comic book reading here. So that was a nice little little nugget. And then it offers us a nice little transition to the First Kingdom. So there's a great resource, Comics Joint, COMIXJOINT, I think it's .com, that I've used for a few years in my hunting for underground comics. It's a great resource for underground comics. The main thing that it ends up doing is it helps you discern if you have a first printing, a second printing, a third printing, etc., which is what I've used it for the most part, because a lot of the underground comics, they don't say, and just out of my own curiosity, I've just wanted to know which editions I have and what the other editions look like. And when I looked up this one, it was another thing that I posted a photo of on Twitter. The first printing of this is the same image, but it's painted, the colors are painted, and it looks just beautiful. I'd really like to hunt that down for the collection because it looks incredible. Comics Joint also, with that, they sometimes give like a little review, sometimes they give you kind of a little nugget of what the story is, a little bit of a history with it. They don't do that with all of the comics. It also serves as a really good database if you just want to search for particular artists, or you just want to look at some covers of these old underground comics that are really, really hard to find. And I kick myself because not this year, but the previous comic convention that we went to, one of the last places I ended up looking at when I was kind of tapped out already had a short box that was kind of filled with these old underground comics, and I really regret not picking some of that up, or at least getting the info from the guy, which I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't even get a card or anything, because I didn't see any of them this year when I went, and I really kick myself for missing that opportunity, because I don't know when it's going to come up, because at least here in Winnipeg, that kind of stuff doesn't show up that often. At Red River Bookshop, behind the counter, up on a shelf, he's got a short box filled with adult comics, and sometimes there's hits in there, but there's not that much. They usually just end up being kind of trashy, small published smut, really, and not even smut in like the good sense. Because I'm all for having smut in my comics. It doesn't matter to me, but it's usually stuff that I'm not interested in by people I've never heard of, and really crummy art, and nothing that interests me. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. The First Kingdom. So Jack Katz started his career in, I think, the 40s and the 50s. Working for various publishers all over the place, working with a bunch of different artists, including Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. He did a stint at Marvel and worked on, what did he work on? I can't remember, some of the Where Monsters Dwell, or some of those kind of series. He worked on some of that stuff. But he's worked in comics for a long time, and from all accounts, he's always been very vocal and always had a lot of great ideas. And the idea for this First Kingdom, to write kind of an extended book, basically in comic form, he'd been kind of mulling around for years, and it was only when he moved to San Francisco in the early 70s, I think 71-ish, and he was exposed to the underground cartoonists and what they were doing, and the books that they were putting out themselves, and just the subject matter that they were tackling, and some people doing some kind of sci-fi type elements, and a lot of people just doing whatever they wanted. It kind of helped him realize that first of all, there's a market for anything, and second of all, if these guys are doing this and selling 100 copies or whatever they're selling next to nothing, it kind of, I think, it wasn't fully stated in the reading I've been doing, but I think that probably helped push him to like, hell, I'm just gonna do it. So what he wanted to do was, his idea was he'd do 2 issues a year. It was going to span 24 issues and be 794 pages, something like that. Almost 800 pages of a comic, which is now considered to be the first, or I don't know about this other thing that he was talking about in Star Reach, but it's, from the reading I've been doing, it's considered to be the first graphic novel. And he just kind of wanted to, he was really vocal in wanting to push the comics form further than just superheroes. He wanted to make it a literary pursuit as well. And I don't want to talk too much about these issues because I want to kind of do a video where we look at the first 5. I've got a number of the issues, but I only have the first 5 like in order, and then I have some sporadic issues beyond that. But it's epic. It's really biblical feeling. It's world building like I've never seen. It's so dense, and throughout the series you don't follow a couple of characters, you follow generations of a family throughout time, going into from what it looks like on some of the covers that I have there, going into the future, going into where they start exploring space. So they kind of really start off in a world that's been destroyed by a cataclysmic event, and then eventually reach a point where they're exploring space. In these first few issues, there's some gods, or in these first 2 issues that I've read so far, there's some gods involved, and I'm sure they're involved later, that play a really big part in this whole universe, or in this whole story. So it's dense. The first half of the first issue was really difficult to get through. It kind of opened up once you kind of fought through that, and then it was pretty easy reading after that. But this is a guy who, he had an idea and a vision for what he wanted to do, and it just drove him. I mean, to put out 1 issue every 6 months and probably spend that entire 6 months leading up to the release of the next issue working on this book. When we take a look inside, you'll see what I mean. It's an incredible undertaking, and I'm really glad that I have the small amount that I have. I really want to make it a mission this next year to hunt down the rest of these. I know that they're collected in a hardcover volume from Titan Comics, I believe, which I'm sure is beautiful. They've done a whole bunch of things to it. One thing, for example, is all of the text in it is typed out, cut out, and pasted in there. And when I'm dealing with this kind of story, that makes it even harder to read, because there's a certain kind of dryness there, as far as like, it's written kind of like a Bible would be written, not quite in that language, but a little more so that direction with the use of language than maybe a comic book like I'm used to. So that matched with the typewritten text make it even a little more difficult in my mind, whereas if it was handwritten or something, I don't know if that would alleviate some of that or not. But so as much as I'd like to get the hardcovers, I really would like to try to hunt down these issues. I really like the format. I like all the extra material you get in it. In each issue there's an introduction by a friend of his, and then there's a tiny little blurb by Jack Katz as well, where he just kind of thanks people and just says a few words. And then in the back cover you get a look at the kind of advertising for this small comic company at the time, which was Comics with a CS and Comics with an IX publications. So that side of it I really like as well. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. And I think it might be interesting to kind of go through with you if anybody's interested at all to have a peek inside here. That'll be coming up soon. I want to read the other 3 issues before I sit down and kind of just film all of the material at once and edit it together. And I'll try to keep it short because it's such a dense comic. There's not much point to kind of doing a breakdown of the story.